Hello folks, this is Aditya from inspiredrise.com and today we are going to talk about the Samsung Galaxy S21 Ultra 5G smartphone, and today I'm going to unbox the same and tell you all about it in detail. So guys, let's first start with the unboxing process. This is the third phone with the Ultra moniker by Samsung. Everyone seems to have taken a page from Apple's book. The box is smaller this time around. There's no charging adapter inside the box or even earbuds as well. The finish does seem like that excessive usage might reveal metal on the smartphone. And if I talk about the build and design, it's 8.9 millimeters thick, 227 grams of weight. It's 229 grams of weight for the particular model which supports millimeter wave 5G, and there are two different models. One is for the sub 6 and one is for the millimeter wave 5G. This Corning Gorilla Glass Victus at the front, which is tougher than almost every other variant out there, even though the screen is 0.1 inches bigger than the iPhone 12 Pro Max, but this smartphone does feel handier. This Corning Gorilla Glass at the back as well with an aluminum frame. It's IP68 dust and water resistant, and you can go up to 1.5 meter depths for 30 minutes. There's a really new design this time around, shiny at the sides, and at the back there's a frosted matte type of finish, and the camera bump is particularly different, which makes it really unique compared to Samsung's other past offerings or even when compared to the competition. There are 4 camera sensors in a very big bump at the back, and this smartphone does feel heavy and dense. It also feels really slippery to hold, so I will definitely recommend using this with a case. The design feels robust and futuristic to me. The power button and volume rocker are present on the right hand side. There's the USB-C port, speaker grill and SIM tray slot at the bottom. There's support for dual SIM on this one, but sadly enough Samsung decided to ditch the microSD card this time around. Samsung has been one of the few brands which produced flagships with support for microSD card since a long time. Even when other smartphone manufacturers had dropped support for microSD, their top-of-the-line flagships always had the capability to expand the storage up to 1.5 terabytes or so. This time around, I think you won't be getting that option because the maximum storage is capped at 512 gigabytes. And sadly, there is no other way to expand that storage. So if you go for the priciest model with the 512 gigabyte storage and 16 GB of RAM, that's the best that you can get. And the sad thing here is that if you're going to record 8K video with that smartphone, you will get only 3 hours of footage. It's still asymmetrical because of the design on the back and smaller than the Note 20 Ultra and S20 Ultra. It's available in Phantom Black and Phantom Silver colors, along with a Phantom Titanium, Phantom Navy and Phantom Brown color. Now let's talk about the display on this one, which is a major talking point for the smartphone. I particularly love the display. It's one of the best smartphone displays around on any other smartphone, any piece of tech, period. 6.8 inches 2K display with dynamic AMOLED 120Hz refresh rate. You get HDR10 Plus with a peak brightness which goes up to 1500 nits. The refresh rate is adaptive, which means that it can dynamically adjust from 10 to 120 Hz. Supposedly you are on a page where you just scrolled and the page came into view, you are reading something, the phone will switch down the refresh rate to 10 Hz. This saves you a lot of battery, and this makes it one of the best battery smartphones from Samsung. The standby time is amazing on this one. Even while actively using the screen on time is definitely amazing because of this particular feature. The display feels almost flat, but is slightly rounded around the edges. There's a centrally aligned hole punch at the top for the front camera, and the display houses an in-display fingerprint sensor as well, which is significantly larger compared to the last time. In the YouTube application, you can watch up to 2K videos. The curve on the side is subtle, so it's not much of an issue. There's an always-on display, and Samsung just keeps on making better displays each year, and this year is no exception. Now let's talk about the hardware and performance. One of the major things that I really hate about Samsung smartphones is the fact that they come up with Exynos chips for Asian and other markets, and there is the Snapdragon chipset version for USA and Chinese markets. I feel that this is pure blasphemy. This is a really bad thing, a very bad approach, because the experiences are definitely not the same on the different platforms. The people who got the Snapdragon 888 version of this smartphone are all raving about the performance and everything else, and I feel that they must not be facing any sort of heating issues or so. But when I was using this particular smartphone with the Exynos 2100 chipset, I felt that it was heating up while recording 8K videos, definitely not heating up while gaming, but I only gamed for around 30 minutes or so, not more than that. I'm not a heavy gamer, so I couldn't really judge on that sort of gaming, high gaming performance. But I feel that this smartphone could definitely benefit from a single chipset approach. So the one that we had came with 5nm Exynos 2100 chipset. 12GB of RAM is standard on this smartphone. The maxed out 512GB storage version gives you 16GB of RAM. The storage is really fast, UFS 3.1. I still don't understand why Samsung follows a 2 chipset approach. I think that it gives them better profits. You get around 128, 256 or 512GB of storage. It's still behind the 12 Pro Max in most of the benchmarks, but feels great to use, and you will see no lag in gaming or doing any intensive activity. Now let's talk about the software experience. This time around I feel Samsung has done a really good job with the software. It comes with the latest version of One UI 3.1 with Android 11. You can now switch to Google Discover feed without installing any launcher, and personally I feel once upon a time Samsung One UI was really shitty and didn't work that well, but right now it works good and I don't really hate the user interface now. It's almost reached Oxygen OS level of fluidity and it does feel great now. This software is much more suited for large screen experiences. There's great split screen support, pop-up window support and whatnot. The iPhone UI feels dated in comparison to this one, but some people will be overwhelmed by so many options. And yes, there are ads at some places in the UI, especially in the weather widgets and other places. Samsung still feels the need to put in ads in a smartphone which is priced above 1 lakh rupees. Now let's talk about the camera on the smartphone, which is one of the major selling points for this smartphone. It comes with a 108 megapixel primary sensor, which is the f1.8 aperture sensor with OIS. There's a 12 megapixel f2.2 ultra wide sensor with autofocus, a 10 megapixel periscope zoom sensor which supports up to 10x zoom, and there's a 10 megapixel 3x zoom sensor with OIS as well. 108 megapixel pictures are possible on this smartphone, but it does give sharper pictures when you are doing a 9:1 pixel binning, which means that if you are shooting in 12 megapixel image, you get slightly better photographs. And if I talk about the image quality, there's a very slight overexposure somewhere, but sharpness is definitely great. More features have been added to the UI. There are features like subject locking and a lot more. There are features like subject locking, you get better portraits. Night mode now works with all of the lenses, even the 10x zoom one. Up to 10x zoom, the images look great. 30x looks great, but in good lighting conditions, but it looks really bad beyond that zoom level. White balance has improved a lot now. 4K 30 FPS videos were good enough, but the stabilization still doesn't feel that much super smooth. But if you enable the super steady mode on Samsung's native camera application, you get really stabilized footage, and it's amongst the best stabilization out there if you use that particular mode. But you are limited in terms of video resolution capability. You definitely can't shoot in 8K mode with the super steady on. 8K 24 FPS videos are possible. 12-bit RAW is possible in Pro mode photographs. There's a director's view which allows you to have a picture-in-picture shot from all of the sensors, and I feel that this is one of the best ultra wide camera smartphones out there. There's a 40 megapixel selfie camera here which has PDAF, and 4K 60 FPS videos are possible on the front camera and all of the other cameras as well. The software gives you options of 0.6x and all the way up to 100x zoom capabilities, which are particularly good. There's dual pixel autofocus which allows you to use ultra wide camera for macro shots, and it does make up for the lack of macro sensor on this smartphone. The phone will definitely improve in future as we were running pre-release software. A glaring issue here is that there's a very thin plane of focus while shooting images. So I was taking a picture of a plant and one of the front leaves of that plant was in focus, but everything just slightly beyond that was completely blurred out. That is that can be considered as an aesthetic effect by some people, but for some people like us who can't change the amount of blur that you're getting there, this feels really bad. Samsung had a solution in their previous smartphones which was called variable aperture. I think they should bring back something like this to these smartphones, which definitely need it, because this time around the thin plane of focus issue is still present here. Autofocus does not seem to suffer here as compared to the previous generation of ultra smartphones. Finally, the portrait mode has been fixed and it allows you to remove the beauty feature completely. And overall, I feel that the camera is really good, but my personal favorite is still the iPhone 12 Pro Max. Now let's talk about the audio quality on this smartphone. I felt that the audio quality was particularly good. There's stereo speaker setup on the smartphone, support for really high definition audio, which is 32-bit 384 kilohertz. Call quality and earpiece quality is great as expected. Videos show noise when shooting stuff with straight edges like brick walls, etc. So it's one of the issues here. Now let's talk about battery on the smartphone. It comes with a 5000 mAh battery, which is a really huge cell size for something which is a flagship smartphone. And if I talk about the charging support, it supports up to 25 watt fast charging. The 5nm processor tech does have low power consumption, and AI algorithms optimize battery usage over a long period of time. There's support for fast wireless charging and reverse wireless charging as well, and supports 15 watt fast wireless charging and reverse wireless charging up to 4.5 watt. You get easy 1 day plus battery life for all type of users, irrespective of whatever you do on the smartphone. The variable refresh rate with the latest 5nm tech does work great in conjunction, and obviously there would be differences between the Exynos and Snapdragon versions. I feel that the USA and China audience got some great luck. 8 to 9 hours of screen on time is easily possible on this smartphone with mixed to heavy usage. This is one of the first smartphones where the 60Hz mode will give you lower battery life when compared to the adaptive 120Hz refresh rate. So wrap your head around this. Now let's talk about connectivity on this one. It's the first to support Wi-Fi 6E, which is a low latency high speed network, Bluetooth 5.2, NFC, GPS, USB-C 3.2. There's support for USB OTG as well, and there's FM radio, but only on the US and Chinese version. There's ultra-wideband support. It supports Samsung DeX, which allows you to get wireless desktop support as well. There's support for Samsung Pay as well, and it has all of the sensors and barometer as well. 5G support is present, but depending upon your region, you might get full or partial coverage. And if you are an Indian user, you will get no coverage at all because we don't even have 5G spectrum auction till now. This smartphone comes with S Pen support for the first time ever in the normal S lineup. Latency is low, but Bluetooth functions and some S Pen specific features don't work right now. The case for the S Pen accessory is extra $89 for the overall combo. The front camera allows for dual video calling, and the S Pen from Galaxy Note 9 upwards would work fine with this smartphone. It's definitely cheaper when compared to the S20 Ultra launch price. It's $200 cheaper than that smartphone, and 1.5TB storage was possible on the previous flagships, but here you have to settle for 512GB maximum. The S21 and S21 Plus are nothing special, but this one does feel a little bit different, and your final choice of smartphone would depend upon your platform choice, whether you are an iOS user or you are an Android user. If I talk about an Android smartphone, this is one of the best Android smartphones around, and if you're an iOS user, there's no question at all, you won't be buying this. Now let's jump down to the pricing. At a price of around 1,06,000 rupees, this smartphone is definitely not meant for everybody. It is meant for people who are willing to spend that much money to get something really bleeding edge with a really great screen and good camera experience. But if you're somebody who's not willing to spend that much money, there are always other options around, and you can always go and buy just another 20 or 30k smartphone which will work really great. And everybody does not need a flagship smartphone. This is one of the major things that I keep reiterating throughout my videos, that you don't need to buy a flagship smartphone in order to have a good smartphone experience. Something like the Pixel 4a, which retails for around 30k or something, does work as good as a flagship smartphone. So you have to keep your needs and choices in mind. Its pricing outside India is $1,200, which is around 87,526 rupees, but there's a price hike of almost 15 to 20,000 rupees, which makes it a little less obvious choice for people who are buying the Exynos version in India, and you are not even getting the Snapdragon 888 version. So you won't be getting access to stuff like Gcam mode and so much more. The iPhone 12 Pro Max still has the best high dynamic range mode, and I think that maybe software updates might fix the camera on this smartphone, but it's definitely not for everyone, especially for people who prefer handy smartphones. This is one of the best displays on any phone right now, and colors on iPhone pictures still feel more natural. And one another point in this smartphone's favor is the fact that this is the best big screen phone possible right now, considering software enhancements and everything else. The travel adapter would set you back by another $20, and there is guaranteed 3 Android version updates by Samsung. So all in all, It all depends upon your personal choice whether you want to buy this smartphone or not. Personally, I would feel really guilty while trying to recommend a smartphone which is so expensive to a lot of people out there. You can spend your money in a lot of better ways. So guys, this was it for this video. In case you like this one, don't forget to smash the thumbs up button and do subscribe to Inspire to Rise for more awesome tech videos like this one. And guys, no matter what you do, stay inspired to rise.